Hello, Patrick Molloy, anxiety specialist here again. So today I'd like to talk a little bit more about anxiety to follow up from what I talked about yesterday. So one or two people contacted me after yesterday's live and they said, well, Patrick, that was really interesting. That was really interesting what you talked about, but how does that help? You were talking about why anxiety was difficult to deal with or difficult to overcome. That's just that could make me feel worse. And I can understand that, because when we're feeling anxious, really what we want to do is we just want to get over it, don't we? And get back to normal. So there is a method in my madness, and really it's this. There's a saying, knowledge is power. And by that I mean, when we understand something, when we've got a knowledge of how something works, then we are able to manage and negotiate that particular thing much more effectively and efficiently. So if we think about the Aztecs and the Incas, apparently they obviously in those days, perhaps they did know a lot about astronomy, some people say they did, but they had a belief that the sun wouldn't rise in the morning unless they carried out some human sacrifices. Now this might not be absolutely historically correct, I don't know, but that's something that I'm sure I read somewhere, that the Aztecs believed that in order to make the sun come up, they had to sacrifice humans. So they didn't have an understanding of how the solar system worked, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have found themselves doing that. So if you don't understand how something works, you can find yourself doing some things that don't make sense or aren't helpful, or they may even be counterproductive. So really that's my thinking in sharing those three things yesterday, which I'll just quickly recap on. So what I talked about are 3 reasons why anxiety can be difficult to overcome. And the first reason had to do with the fact that when we're feeling anxious, there's a tendency for us to perceive that the anxiety is coming from people, places and things, and then to avoid those people, places and things or situations, which reinforces our belief that the anxiety is coming from those places. So if we understand that and see that, actually, it probably is making it worse. I was going to go and talk to that customer, but I didn't because I was feeling anxious, and it's only making me more anxious by avoiding those situations. If you understand that, that can help you to kind of support yourself in facing those situations that provoke a bit of anxiety. Also, something I think I'll talk about in another live later, it's important to have the attitude of supporting yourself and having a kind of positive relationship with yourself when you face up to those anxiety provoking situations, rather than beating yourself up, saying, come on, put yourself together, stop being an idiot. That's entirely counterproductive. So what I recommend, the way around, or the way to sort of negotiate with that first issue we talked about yesterday, is to see the sense in making that effort to face those situations that may be provoking some anxiety, and supporting yourself through those situations with positive, supportive internal dialogue. That means talking to yourself, obviously. That's what we all do it. And that will help you to at least maintain your comfort zone and hopefully expand it again. Because as you get used to facing up to these situations, you will actually feel less anxious over time. Particularly if you give yourself a nice pat on the back when you do face up to these things. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I talked about a French psychologist called Émile Coué. And basically what he talked about was the fact that if you think about something a lot, it makes it more likely to happen. So people with anxiety are thinking about anxiety a lot of the time, so they feel anxious, they're kind of rehearsing the anxiety, and it's a vicious cycle really of thinking about anxiety and that reinforcing the feeling of anxiety. The other thing we talked about was the law of reversed effort. When you try not to be anxious, you're thinking about anxiety, so you're going to feel more anxious. I think I said, yeah, that's right. I said, don't think about a pink elephant. And most of us will think about a pink elephant. When we try not to think about something, we have to think about it, which is kind of weird in a way when you think about it. So a way around it is try this. Think about a blue elephant. Think about a blue elephant. So if you did that, you won't have been thinking about a pink elephant. You see? So rather than trying not to think about something, place your attention elsewhere on other things, and automatically you won't be focusing on that thing you're trying not to think about. So rather than sitting around trying not to feel anxious, it's important to engage with life and as much as possible do those things that sort of take you out of your head. Now that would be different things for different people. You know, it might be golf, it might be going to a yoga class. Yoga is particularly good because it takes you out of your head and into your body. You might enjoy fishing. You know, you maybe just want to go and have a chat with friends and go and do something that's fun. So it just takes you out of yourself and reduces that focus that we might have on anxiety. So, tragically, often people, when they're feeling anxious, they stop doing those things that they enjoy, and they stop engaging with life, the world, and other people. And as I said the other day, they're blowing up that balloon of anxiety by constantly thinking about it, and they can't see anything else. There's just anxiety. You can't see around it. So by doing those other things and putting your attention on those other things, that can be really helpful, and it breaks the spell that anxiety may have put one under. So the third thing that we talked about yesterday was about when you've been feeling anxious for quite a long time, or you're spending a lot of time in a state of anxiety, you're not feeling particularly great. So that puts you, it's like a mood. You're in an anxious mood, and you view everything through that mood. And so when you start a treatment or you start some therapy, you might, because you're in an anxious mood and a negative mood, you're going to perceive that the chances of being successful in therapy are not very good, and you may not then persist with that therapy or self-help or whatever it might be that you're trying to do to help yourself. Now, being aware of that fact, the fact that when we're anxious, we're going to see everything in a sort of skewed light through that darker filter. Being aware of that fact can be quite helpful, because you can then realise that you're not necessarily seeing things as clearly as you might, and that you're likely, if you understand that you're seeing things through that filter of an anxious mood, you can be a little bit sceptical of your own thinking and your own conclusions, and realise, okay, yeah, I'm not feeling great, but that doesn't necessarily mean that X, Y, or Z will or will not happen. So just having that knowledge, as I say, knowledge is power, that can really be helpful, and it just helps you to be a little bit sceptical of some of your anxious thinking, which does tend to be a bit negative, black and white, and I'm definitely not going to get better, I'm going to be anxious the rest of my life. All of that can seem very convincing when we're in a very low mood due to anxiety. So anyway, so those are, I thought after yesterday's live, which was, it's focusing on why it's difficult, the other side to the coin is when you understand that, when you understand those factors, you can sort of work around them and use that knowledge to your advantage. And that can certainly help you to at least manage your anxiety, if not recover completely. So anyway, that's all for today. I'm Patrick Molloy, anxiety specialist. If you have any questions about this, if you'd like to perhaps get some help with anxiety or like to have a chat about how I might be able to help you, by all means reach out and I'd be happy to talk to you. But that's it for now, so speak to you soon.